I was in middle school when I spent the night at a friend's house. Like most sleepovers, we had no intention of going to bed at a reasonable hour. We stayed downstairs talking, joking around, and drinking enough soda to guarantee that somebody would eventually have to use the bathroom. The only problem was that the bathroom was close to his parents' bedroom. If one of us went in there and woke them up, we knew we would be in trouble. So we had developed a simple solution. Whenever nature called during the night, we would sneak out through the basement door and use the woods instead. That basement door was normally left unlocked because we had managed to lock ourselves outside more than once. We also spent a lot of time wandering around the woods, so having an easy way in and out was convenient. But that night, my friend's older brother was home, and he kept coming through the basement door just to annoy us. He would burst in from upstairs, cause a little chaos, and disappear again. Eventually, we decided to lock the door. It probably wouldn't have stopped him for long, but at least he would need a key, and that would take the fun out of his surprise visits. Sometime around midnight, we heard the basement door handle moving. At first, none of us cared. We assumed it was his brother trying to get back inside. The handle rattled, stopped, then rattled again. This continued on and off for several minutes. Eventually, we got annoyed and shouted through the door for him to quit messing around. Immediately, everything went silent. No answer, no footsteps, nothing. We figured that was the end of it and went back to whatever we had been doing. Then, about 10 minutes later, the handle started moving again. The same slow rattling, the same pauses. We yelled again, and once more, whoever was outside stopped. This pattern continued for nearly 2 hours. At that point, we were tired of reacting to it, so after our final warning, we simply ignored the noise. Whoever was outside continued trying the handle for another 30 minutes or so before finally stopping. We assumed his brother had gotten bored and gone away. None of us thought much more about it until the next morning. Around 9, we were waking up and slowly coming back to life. One of my friends needed the bathroom, and as soon as one person started moving around, everyone else began getting up too. I walked outside and reached for the basement door to close it behind me. That was when I noticed something strange about the handle. The metal around the keyhole looked badly damaged. There were deep scratches everywhere, and the metal guides around the lock had been bent and twisted. I called my friend over and asked what had happened. He had no idea. He had never seen the damage before. Worried that his older brother might somehow blame us for it, we went upstairs and told his parents exactly what had happened during the night. His father went downstairs to inspect the door. The moment he saw it, the color drained from his face. He immediately went upstairs and called the police. That was when we learned what the noise had actually been. Someone had apparently been trying to force the basement door open while we were all inside. The part that still bothers me isn't just that someone tried to break into the house. It's that whoever was outside kept doing it after we yelled at them. They knew people were inside. They knew someone was aware of their presence. And instead of leaving, they repeatedly tried to get through the door. Looking back, that makes every one of those rattles feel completely different. At the time, we thought we were dealing with an annoying older brother. In reality, we may have been listening to someone trying to get into the house while a group of kids sat only a few feet away. I still think about how different that night could have been if the lock had given way. When I was 6 years old, my parents took me and my younger sister to a Major League Baseball game. My grandmother stayed behind to babysit my youngest sister while we were gone. At the time, none of us had any reason to believe the afternoon would turn into something my family would remember for decades. When we returned home, my grandmother told my parents that 2 men had stopped by the house. They had photography equipment with them and asked specifically about a young girl with red curly hair. According to them, they had seen her before and thought she would be perfect for some advertising work they were supposedly doing. My grandmother explained that the girl wasn't home. The two men simply said they would return another time. My grandmother and mother initially didn't think much of the encounter. To them, it probably sounded like an unusual but harmless sales pitch. My father, however, immediately felt that something about the situation was wrong. Instead of dismissing it, he contacted the police. About 15 minutes later, several FBI agents arrived and began speaking with my parents and grandmother. Meanwhile, I was apparently completely unaware of how serious everything was. I was running around showing the agents my little Matchbox police helicopter, probably thinking they were there for some completely ordinary reason. What the adults were learning was far more disturbing. According to what my family was told, the people who had approached the house were believed to be connected to a child theft operation. The supposed photographers would approach families and take pictures of children. They would wait for the child to become upset or start crying, then encourage the mother to step away briefly and get a toy or something else to calm them down. That moment alone could give someone an opportunity to take the child and disappear. My parents were told that children could then be moved out of the country extremely quickly. They were also warned that my sister could potentially have been gone within a day if someone had managed to take her. Whether every detail we were told at the time was completely accurate or not, the warning was serious enough that my family changed our routines. We were advised to change schools and become much more careful about where we went and who had access to us. As a child, I obviously didn't understand the danger. I was more interested in showing federal agents my toy helicopter than listening to the adults talk. But looking back now, the thought of what could have happened to my sister is horrifying. My mother became extremely protective after that. It took years before she was comfortable leaving us with babysitters or trusting people around us. And honestly, after having strangers show up asking specifically about a child in the family, I can't really blame her. My mother was around 12 years old when a man living nearby began making her uncomfortable. She and her mother were living in a small trailer behind a relative's house, and the man from the neighboring property would occasionally stare at my mother. At first, she assumed he was simply lonely or socially awkward. She noticed the behavior, but she didn't believe she was in real danger. That changed one night. My mother was alone in the trailer when she heard something moving across the roof. Then came the sound of footsteps slowly traveling along the metal surface above her. She had no phone, and her family didn't have much money at the time, so she had very few options. Instead of going outside to investigate, she ran straight from the trailer into the main house. Her uncle went outside and checked the roof, but there was nobody there. For a while, nothing else happened. A few weeks passed, and my mother started wondering if fear had simply gotten the better of her that night. Then, other strange things began happening whenever she was alone. The incidents were never close together. Sometimes a week or two would pass before something else happened. Looking back, they seemed less like random events and more like someone was deliberately making her feel watched. Eventually, everything stopped. Then, months later, my mother woke up in the trailer because it was unbearably hot. The heater was running at full power. She got out of bed and started toward the controls, intending to turn it down, but something stopped her. She suddenly had an overwhelming feeling that she shouldn't stay inside. Instead of walking over to the heater, she left the trailer and went into the main house. Her uncle went outside to check the trailer. He immediately noticed that something was wrong with the door lock. It appeared to have been damaged or tampered with. He looked inside but didn't see anyone. His wife insisted that they call the police. When officers arrived, they searched the trailer carefully. That's when they found something terrifying. One of the kitchen knives was hidden behind a chair, right beside the heater controls. The theory was that someone had entered the trailer, turned the heater all the way up, and then hidden behind the chair. The idea was apparently to make my mother get up and walk over to the heater, bringing her directly within reach of whoever was hiding there. And if that was really what happened, nobody knows what the person intended to do next. The police questioned the neighbor, but there wasn't enough evidence to charge him with anything. Eventually, my mother and grandmother moved away from the area. Years later, my mother happened to see that same neighbor at a grocery store in a nearby town. She recognized him immediately. Instead of confronting him, she turned around and ran out before he could notice her. What makes this story especially disturbing is that my mother's fear may have been the only thing that protected her. That feeling told her not to walk toward the heater, even though she had no logical explanation for it. Sometimes the most frightening part of a story is realizing how close someone may have been to getting hurt without ever knowing it. This happened in a Sacramento neighborhood sometime in the 1980s, when I was around 9 or 10 years old. I was visiting a friend, and late one night, 3 of us decided to walk several blocks to a nearby park and elementary school. It was around 10 at night, which was probably far too late for 3 kids our age to be wandering around, but at the time, we didn't think much of it. We were playing frisbee in the street near the school when the frisbee landed in the road. Just as I went to retrieve it, a white van pulled up and stopped nearby. At first, we assumed the driver was simply giving me enough room to get the frisbee. I walked toward the van, picked it up, and moved out of the way so the vehicle could continue. Then the sliding side door opened. A man dressed completely in black suddenly came flying out of the side of the van and reached for me. For a moment, I couldn't even understand what I was seeing. The man was attached to some kind of harness, and the van appeared to have been modified with a mechanism that allowed him to extend several feet outside the vehicle while hanging from it. It looked almost like something you would see in a haunted house attraction. There was another person inside the van operating the mechanism. That meant there were at least 3 people involved. I barely managed to avoid the man's hands. The 3 of us immediately ran toward the elementary school. We climbed over one fence, pushed through some bushes, and eventually made it over another much taller fence that brought us inside the school grounds. We were terrified. We could hear the van moving around nearby, and we assumed the people inside were looking for us. Eventually, we found a way onto the school roof and stayed there, hoping they wouldn't see us. For at least 30 minutes, we watched the white van drive around the school. That was one of the most frightening parts. If these people had simply driven away after the failed attempt, maybe we could have convinced ourselves that we had misunderstood what happened. But they didn't leave. They kept circling the area as though they were actively searching for us. At one point, we thought we could see people getting out and looking around on foot. There were no cell phones back then, so we had no easy way to call anyone. We stayed hidden for roughly another 45 minutes after we last saw the van before finally deciding it was safe enough to leave. We ran back to my friend's house and never told our families what had happened. Looking back, that decision makes absolutely no sense to me. We were children who had just experienced something terrifying, yet we were more afraid of getting punished for being out late than we were of telling an adult. The strangest detail is that I still remember the van stopping as though it was simply waiting for me to retrieve the frisbee. What looked like an ordinary moment turned into something completely different within seconds. And to this day, I can't help wondering how long those people had been watching us before that van ever stopped.